The year is 1961. A lone Soviet doctor in Antarctica faces an impossible decision: perform surgery on himself or die. You see, Antarctica in the 1960s wasn't just a frozen wasteland. It was also a geopolitical chessboard. The Cold War was raging, and both the Soviets and Americans were desperate to plant their flags on the last untouched continent. Scientific research? Sure, but also propaganda. A propaganda at those penguins. Look at them. Oh. No, but seriously, every new base, every expedition, it was a political statement of sorts. Proof that your side could survive where no one else could. You see, around this time, the Soviets had already shocked the world with Sputnik, and now they were pushing into the most inhospitable environment on Earth with the 6th Soviet Antarctic expedition. This expedition wasn't just about science, it was about national pride, and that meant failure wasn't an option. Which, of course, is exactly when things go wrong. The team of 12, including the medical professional Rogozov, were sent to build a base at the Schermacher Oasis. Once the base was operational, the team was then set to hunker down to see out the relentless winter months. Rogozov, the 27-year-old surgeon, which is practically a baby in the medical world, only had a couple of years' experience since graduating university and joined the Antarctic expedition with the ideals of national pride and honor to help oversee the operations of the new base, as well as to provide medical care to the crew members if need be. Little did he know, however, his skills would be put to the ultimate test soon enough. Within 2 months of completing their mission and a new base built, sickness began to settle in. Rogozov's body was taken over by an extreme fever, nausea, and a pain in his abdomen described by himself in a diary entry as, quote, "a snowstorm whipping through my soul, wailing like 100 jackals." Ah, yes, the classic WebMD 100 jackals diagnosis. So now Rogozov was faced with the daunting reality of the situation. He has a ticking time bomb in his stomach, ready to burst at any given moment. You see, today, an appendectomy is routine. You're in and out in 30 minutes in a lollipop. But in 1961, especially in Antarctica, a ruptured appendix meant almost certain death. Here is where it gets interesting. Your appendix is basically a little pouch hanging off of your intestine. Very useless. But if it gets blocked, bacteria begin to multiply, pressure begins building up, and boom! It bursts, flooding your abdomen with toxic gunk. The result? Peritonitis, a horrific infection that turns your gut into a war zone, and without surgery, your organs begin to shut down, one by one. Rogozov knew the clock was ticking. He figured he had maybe a day or two before the point of no return, and with storms grounding all flights, his options were to 1. Die a slow and agonizing death, or 2. To cut into his own abdomen like a Black Friday shopper tearing into that last discounted TV you had your eyes on. So here he lay, thousands of miles from a hospital in severe storms eliminating any chance of an emergency rescue operation. Rogozov began preparations for something never done before: the removal of his own appendix. To restate, Rogozov was the only medical professional. The only one. His other crewmates had zero experience whatsoever, and the best they could do was hold a flashlight. So that's what they did. Rogozov, like any good surgeon, was methodical with the surgery prep and trained 2 crew members, a driver and a meteorologist, the best he could, and gave them a crash course as to what to do, what he needed from them, and what to expect. And so it began. The surgery. More specifically, the 2 crew members were trained on what to do if he lost consciousness, how to inject him with the adrenaline, and the order in which to hand him his instruments, as well as where to hold the mirror in the light. Rogozov knew that he would only have access to a weak local anesthetic, not more suited for filling a cavity, but persisted nonetheless. Rogozov's local anesthetic was so weak, in fact, he later wrote that every movement of my scalpel felt like a white-hot poker. But what choice did he have? I'd like you to imagine this. You're lying on a table, sweating through a fever, and the only thing between you and septic shock is, well, you. And 2 guys who last week were probably out, measuring snowflakes. As the operation began, the stakes were growing larger, and so was the tension. After about 30 minutes of operating, the doctor began losing consciousness and was forced to take breaks every 4 minutes or so. As he persisted, a 3rd crew member remained on standby in case the driver or meteorologist fainted during the procedure. Rogozov shared his sympathy for his 2 crew members who were watching an ordeal that must have been akin to watching a real-life game of Surgeon Simulator unfold before their very eyes, saying that their skin turned as white as the surgical whites themselves. But the worst part? When he accidentally nicked his cecum. You see, the cecum is a tiny storage room at the start of your large intestine where leftover food hangs out before moving on. Useless? Mostly. Dangerous if you poke it? Absolutely. Rogozov accidentally stabbed his, which is like poking a trash bag full of rotten groceries. Now all that nasty stuff just leaks everywhere. Oops. Now you see, slicing your own intestine is bad enough, but here's the kicker. He couldn't panic. One shaky hand, one wrong stitch, and he'd turn his guts into a leaky piñata, which would lead to septic shock. So with the focus of a bomb defusal expert in Iraq, he sewed it shut. But somehow, through sheer willpower and probably some spite, Rogozov yanked out his rotten, black-stained appendix and sewed himself shut. Total time? 2 grueling hours. And then he took a nap, because why not? I think we'd all do the same, honestly. After the operation was complete, antibiotics were applied directly to the cavity, and Rogozov saw gradual improvement in his general condition. He saw his fever go down, his body aches fall away, and was able to remove the stitches in 7 days. After 2 weeks, he was back to his regular duties. Talk about a workaholic. His self-surgery captured the hearts and minds of the Soviet public, and Rogozov was awarded the Order of the Red Banner of Labor, which was the 3rd highest civil award in the USSR at the time. I have no idea what one would have to do to get the first one, but nonetheless, in any case, his story became a legend in medical history and cemented his name in not only Soviet, but medical and world history alike. Rogozov was finally brought back to his homeland 2 years after this ordeal and immediately returned to work at his clinic, where he practiced another 30 years until his passing in the year 2000. He had a great career after the fact and was a well-respected surgeon with renowned work done on the treatment of esophageal cancer, and because of this, was appointed to the head of the surgery department of the St. Petersburg Research Institute until his passing. Because of his ordeal, appendectomies are now commonly required among many countries sending their citizens to the frozen tundra, as well as suggestions to do the same for those voyaging into space to prevent another impromptu surgery. So what do we make of Rogozov? Was he a madman, a genius, or just a guy who really didn't want to die in Antarctica? Whatever you call him, his story is a monument to human stubbornness. No helicopter, no backup, just a scalpel, a mirror, and the kind of determination akin to a cat refusing to get off of your keyboard while you're working. And let's be honest, most of us would have folded at the mild discomfort. Meanwhile, Rogozov was out here performing DIY organ removal like it was a weekend hobby. But beyond the legend, his legacy is very real. Because of him, many are warned against facing winters in Antarctica without losing their appendix first. Because of him, space agencies train for zero-gravity surgery. And because of him, we all know the ultimate life hack. If you're gonna fall apart, at least be your own mechanic. So next time you're, quote, too sick to work, remember, this man cut out his own body's organ and was back to duty in 2 weeks. Good for him. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this tale of Soviet-era badassery, give it a like and subscribe for more stories where history and what the hell collide. Got a topic you want covered? Drop it in the comments. And remember, always keep a suture kit handy, just in case. Thanks guys.